I don't know what it's for.
What's the forefront? What's the most powerful thing?
You woke me up.
So besides from the fact that I'm mad at you for doing whatever you've done, but I'm in the back of my mind, what's pushing me? What's motivating me to do whatever I'm going to do next? What's going to be the push to do anything about this? I believe that the push will be fear. The person, their space is invaded. Even if it's just the front door, in the back of their mind, what's going through their mind? Oh, if this could happen in Beaver Hill on my front doorstep with all the Jewish families around, then what's next? It might not feel like I'm afraid. I don't think most people in the room would feel afraid. Very often feel afraid. We kind of, the Babbages, we fight on. But in the back of your mind, when you're going to do anything about this, if I would come up to you and say, so what? So what? Somebody could feel you do. So what? Somebody clutched you. People get clutched all over the world. So what? Someone got killed. I mean, it's a dangerous world. It's not a pleasant society in many cases on the news. So what? So what if somebody got hurt? Obviously, Jewish. I mean, anybody should get hurt. But ultimately, in the back of the mind, it's a question of 1 second. If this could happen, then what goes on inside is what's next? Where is this going? You know what? Why aren't more people here bringing their kids for the babysitting and taking the opportunity to give their wives a break on a Sunday morning? Because husbands are afraid, if I do it this Sunday, then what's going to be? My wife is going to think this could be a regular Sunday morning, and then I'm going to be stuck with it. So often I don't think this is an uncommon scenario in our own heads. Certain things we're afraid of what might be next. That is a very debilitating, that's a very bad place to be. It's a very sticky place. You can get stuck there and respond in the wrong way. When you're afraid, we don't function well. We don't think well. We respond, but you're not necessarily responding from a good, healthy place. And so it's not going to go to the right direction. So the most important thing to understand, and again, we don't necessarily process it as fear. You don't sit in front of a computer and see an anti-Semitic attack that occurred, you begin to be afraid. But inside, that's pretty much what's going on. And the Rebbe's guidance in this area is immediately deal with that fear. Al tira, don't fear. Moving from that place into a place of al tira. Why? Why should I not fear? Al tira, I'm not going to fear because I could have trust in the English that there will be a good outcome ultimately. We know Mashiach is coming. Mashiach is coming. It's going to bring a world of literally a good, peaceful, Shmaka world. We're learning now Basavagani. The world is gone. The world is not a crazy place where crazy things happen and it only gets worse and worse and worse. That's a very different narrative than we could tell ourselves as a youth. So when you see something, or when something happens to you and your mind goes to, well, you know what? I better put in, person thinks, what about security? What about security measures? Because I'm nervous. What's going to be next? Most important to stop that. And it's a very interesting thing. What's the most common oft repeated phrase in the entire Tanakh? The short phrase, the most common phrase repeated in the entire Tanakh. I'll give you a few options. Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I'm Hashem your God. Or V'ahavtem es hager, you should love the ger. Or Al tira, don't fear. What do you think the Torah's repeated the most tongue in the entire Bible. Huh? Oh, yeah, that's not a phrase, it's just a message, I'm saying. Altira or altira'u is the most repeated in the entire Torah. So the Abish is saying, listen, you may have the fear, but I'm telling you, as a directive of Torah, stop that momentum of that fear and literally move into a place of darkness. That's a real avodah. And when you're talking to people that aren't familiar with Siddur, it's maybe not so, the words aren't so deep because they don't necessarily understand the depth of bitachon and the depth of emunah. But here we can understand that, and it's an avodah to really move into a better space and see it as progressing in a better direction rather than progressing in a worse direction. So I've printed for you. You should have here a very interesting case, and a lot of the discussion of the shir is going to connect with Purim. Purim was the classic attack against the Yidden because of an anti-Semitic Haman and Achashverosh. And how did they deal with it? How did Mordechai deal with it? How did he get the people, the Yidden, to respond? So number one, what's the first thing that happened when the Gzeira was put into place? Haman was victorious. He came out with a signed document to kill all the Jews. He walks out, and all of his people are walking out with him. You can imagine they're enjoying their move into ultimately fulfilling the decree. They're all Mordechai. They saw Mordechai. They noticed Mordechai that was going in front of them. Mordechai sees this whole entourage. Second paragraph. So Mordechai sees 3 kids coming out of school. And he says, I'll take this opportunity and I'm going to go ask the kids. I need a message from the Eibishter. What do we do? How do we approach this? He goes to the 3 children and he says, tell me what you learned in school. The language is Soik li Sukecha. And at the 3rd paragraph, Kevin Shehigia Mordechai Eitzel Hatim. Shol Echad Mihen, Soik li Sukecha. On my list, the child said, Al Tira Mikachad Pisaim Mishoyas Shoim Kisava. We read it every day. We finished davening. The 3 psukim, Al Tira Mikachad Pisaim, Utsu Eitzav Sufar, and Va'adzikna Anihu are those 3 psukim that Mordechai heard from the children walking out of school. He said, what are they telling me? Al Tira. And from the plans of the Rishonim, Utsu Eitzav, they're making a plan. The Sufar will be undone. Dabru Davar, they're scheming against you. But Lo Yakum, it won't happen. Ki imanu. So again, if you could process every anti-Semitic incident that happens to you personally or to others, obviously you want to be able to take care of it and secure and make sure everyone's in a good place. But if you could process it, turn it into a place of bitachon in Hashem, and things are going to be better, we will be in a much better space for flow on the internet or wherever we are in regards to anti-Semitism. Yes and no. You're saying it doesn't make sense to trust in the Eibishter because what have we seen? That history repeats itself again and again, and you're not always under Pharaoh. But at the same time, the Eibishter is always in it.
But it's an halacha, no? He's sustaining Yaakov. Can't do anything about it.
This is the Eibishter's word. There's danger. Are you in danger? When you're in danger, you have to deal with the situation immediately as it needs to be dealt with. But there is a difference though. When somebody's repeated front door, you're not in danger. The question is only how you respond. And you could respond from a place of fear, or you could respond from a place of bitachon, which means that when you put those security measures into place, why are you doing that? Because Abishta said these are the channels that you use in the natural world. You should put into the natural security measures into place. But because I've guided you that this is your way forward. Not because if I don't put those security measures into place, I'm chas v'shalom in danger of being killed. No, that's not true. I'm going to go to the authorities and I'm going to advise them on what happened. But again, it's not a place of fear. It's a very big difference. Are you afraid that your car's going to get stolen? Do cars get stolen? Yes, they do. But do we walk around afraid that our car's going to get stolen? Do you lock your door because you're afraid? You're doing it because this is the way you're supposed to go about life. You have a car, it's something that people want, something that people will take if you have an opportunity to, you lock your car. But when it goes into this area of antisemitism, very often translates into fear.
I say that the toughness is, without the toughness, there is a real fear. Right? It's a reality.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
But not to
Absolutely. Now, what I brought before, the Torah says, Al Tira, how many times? Why does the Torah say Al Tira? Because you will very, in reality, you will be afraid. Because the reality is
I guess it's nice and
I didn't say you have to convince yourself. I said you have to stop that fear. However it works for you. If you find another way which is better, then find another way. That first step is it has to stop. Because moving forward in that energy is not going to get you far. So if the stopping of the fear is if the help is that no, truth is able to control, and that's a good stop. If there are other things that will stop your fear, then that's good. But you have to move into a better space of love, into a space of becoming general. That's a very productive measure because it's helping you. Full stop. Again, first is Altira. So we're going to say that there's a few steps here. First of all, Altira. Literally, stop. However it works for you. You want to do a breathing exercise? Again, there's many levels here. But it's the most important thing is not to respond from that fearful place. Again, it's an avodah, but it's very, very important. That's the first nukuda that I wanted to address here. We have number 2, the most famous capital. Everyone knows it. Ask anybody. Classic story of a lady who went to Christianity. Unfortunately, they asked her why. She said, because look at this beautiful song they have. God is my shepherd, I shall not fear. And she had no idea that this is a Jewish text. But who is David HaMelech? David HaMelech was a man who was being chased for his life. Imagine, you have the entire king and country chasing you to kill you. How weird. And how did he respond? He understood that the Abishta takes care of me. The Abishta gave me prayer to wake up this morning. The Abishta is doing so many kindnesses to me at this moment. I should focus on those and realize that no, he's really there. So it might be irrational to think in the big picture that it's just going to go away. It's not going to go away. But ultimately, right now, I should be taking care of it. No question. He ran because that was the steps that he would take. Not after. Oh, because he didn't want to get caught. He trusted in Hashem that his efforts would be successful. Which efforts? Efforts to stay out of it. I'm saying, how do you take care of it? Do you take care of it out of fear, or do you take care of it out of an understanding that okay, I have to take care of it? Just like I have to work my car. So you're going again into that narrative of this is going to lead to that, and that's going to lead to that, and that's going to lead to that. No, that's not the narrative. So you want to prevent the next stage, or you're afraid of the next stage? So if you're afraid, then you might do things which don't add up in the right productive way of doing things. But if you're not afraid, you're just preventing, then you'll do the ideal steps.
What did you say?
Yes, but it might not be to call up at 12 o'clock at night and say, I was confused. No, you'll call up at 8 o'clock in the morning when the office is open. And you'll give over the message. But understand that this is a topic which is again not just for anti-Semitism, it's again to everything. What do you do when you have a tzara? What do you do when you're in trouble? You could be in trouble medically, you could be in trouble financially, you could be in trouble in many ways. How do you deal with it? So it's important to realize the Torah is giving you a directive, al tira, and then move into a better space and follow the ideal steps from there. What about the question of how we could deal with anti-Semitism, or getting deeper, why does anti-Semitism exist? Now, it's important to understand this anti-Semitism is absurd, it's completely ridiculous, it's contradictory most of the time. They contradict themselves. Jews have all the money in the world and they're controlling everything, or Jews are sucking all the money out of the system because they don't want to work and they're too lazy, and they take off Shabbos because they don't want to be productive for society. What are we? Are we lazy and taking your money? Are we in control and on top of it? Everyone throughout history has found another reason, and very often contradictory reasons for hating. So obviously the reason for the hate is not the true reason. Imagine a guy has a field, and in the middle of his field, he has this huge mound, this huge pile of dirt. He doesn't want it. He wants to be able to use the field to plant, to harvest. He's got this huge mound of dirt. It's an eyesore. It's bothering him. It doesn't belong there. That's the way anti-Semites have called out Eden. You guys are the problem in the field. We have a beautiful field here, and you're the eyesore. You dress differently, you act differently. What's the story? I want to get rid of you. That's how they define the Jewish problem. The Rebbe has a very interesting sifa where he goes back into the story of Purim. He explains, based on the Medrash, what does the root of anti-Semitism really go down to? You think it's a mound. You think they say, oh, you dress funny, so maybe I'll stop dressing funny. Maybe because they say that you guys control the world, maybe I'll have a very mild, very subtle home. I won't have a fancy house. I won't have a fancy car. I'll drive very simply. I'll live very simply because they don't consider it good to see that a Jewish person is living with financial luxury. So how are we going to respond? All the wrong responses come by saying the Jewish people are the problem because of A, B, C, or D. So how are we going to solve that? Oh, well, take away A, take away B, take away C, take away D, and then the Pashas, they won't have any problems. But for some reason, it's never been resolved. There's always a new issue. There's always a new problem. The Rebbe says a very, very geschmack. Take a look at number 3, outside the page. Mashal Achashverosh v'Haman, the Ma Hadover David. What is the story of Achashverosh and Haman? Two people that hated the Jews and wanted to get rid of them. Why did they hate the Jews? What's the part here? What's pushing them? What's their issue? So the Medrash gives us an example, a mashal, of what their issue was. Two people. So one guy has this big mound of dirt in his field. Imagine you have a container like you have for these construction sites. You have a huge container full of stuff. You don't want it there. You want to get rid of it. It gets full, you get rid of it. He's got this tail, you have a driveway. You have this thing sitting on your driveway, make it a little bit more relevant for us. One guy has a driveway, he's got this construction container sitting in it. The other one has a choritz, and I've got in English, the ditch. So you've got a driveway, but you have this huge crater. You can't use a driveway. The guy who has the ditch says to himself, who's going to give me dirt to fill my crater, to fill my ditch? I tell him that. And the guy who has the mound says, who's going to pay? Who's going to give the opportunity to take this dirt and deposit it in a hole that they've had? So I'm looking to pay somebody to take my dirt. Other guy's looking for somebody to give him dirt. One day, they meet up. They meet up one day. The guy who has the ditch says to the guy who has this big mound, he's like, oh, could I pay you for your mound of dirt? And he says, what do you mean? Pay me for it. I've been looking for something to get rid of it this whole time. Go ahead, take it back. So Moshe, the Achashverosh, Haman, Achashverosh, he's the king. He has these people in his land. Haman says, I want to get rid of them. I have a ditch. I want to get rid of the Jewish people. Could you give me the Jewish people? Could you give me your tell that I could fill my ditch? And I'll pay you for it. I'll pay you 10,000 gold silver coins. And Achashverosh responds, take it. The kesef is yours. The people are yours. Do whatever you like with them. So the Rebbe says, why is it that if the Jewish people are a problem because they stick out, why is it that Haman is described as having an issue of this tolerance? He's got a ditch. He doesn't have a ditch. He's got a saw. He's got something that's poking him, that's causing him trouble. Why are we describing this issue of the Yidden as a ditch? And I'll take it one step further. By Yisacher Ahem Haman, number 4, the next page. When Haman describes his issue with Yidden, how does he describe it? He gathers all of his household together and he tells them, listen guys, I've got everything that you could possibly want under the sun. Everything that I need, I've got. What do I have? It's Kvod Oshur. I have wealth. I have all the children that I want. I have the authority. I have the power. And the most important occasion in the entire kingdom, Esther, the queen, inviting the king. Who does she invite together with the king? She invites me. I could literally lack for nothing, it sounds like. And then he says, it's not of any value to me. This is all like nothing. When I see Mordechai, so somehow he's got everything. There's nobody that could seemingly compete. Nobody has more than him. Nobody's stopping him. So all of the Jewish problems are not really affecting him, and yet he's got this issue that he cannot resolve. Somehow something about Yidden is hitting his stomach. He just cannot sit with it. He's got a void, something inside of him that's bothering him because of him. And because of that, he will never be comfortable. No matter what the Yidden do or don't do, the fact that Yidden represents something makes him uncomfortable and makes him feel like whatever he has is not good enough. What is this courage? What is this void? So Jewish people, we know, as Yidden, we represent the Eibishter's mission for the world. We represent the Eibishter's presence in the world. We represent a people that is connected to a God, an Eibishter, who is connected to a mission for the world. Therefore, if a guy is living it up, but he's not living it up with any purpose, he sees a Jew and he says, you're bothering me because you're reminding me that I cannot just go through my day, have my coffee in the morning, go to work, come home, watch a movie. I can't do that. Why not? Because this world is something deeper. There's an issue. There's someone who I'm accountable to. There's someone who I'm responsible for providing a better world. So Yidden make that uncomfortable feeling for a guy. And therefore, he has two choices. He could either decide, you know what, I'm going to choose to be more productive. Or he could decide to get rid of, numb the pain, take the ditch that he has and fill it so that he doesn't feel the ditch. Fill it with those people that are bringing him that awareness. Now it's interesting. And this is there's an interesting source for it. Basically, a German who was part of the Nazi Party, but then was beginning to argue with them, and he was estranged from them. So he records certain interviews that he had with Hitler. So it's not 100% sure if he kind of made up part of it, but it's recorded. These are interviews that he put down. He says that Hitler described his desire to kill the Yidden. Why? Because the Jewish people represent the world's consciousness. So to speak, you could go through your day without being conscious, without having any deeper conscious of what needs to be done, what responsibility I have. And the Yidden represent that consciousness. And so we need to just numb that. We need to neutralize that so we can just go back to life. Which is incredible to hear in those words. And this is the way the Rebbe is describing this, that's the way the guy feels about the Yiddish presence. And therefore, it's never going to go away. The issue is never going to go away. Why? Because we always have lazy or people that want to be just in it for themselves. As naturally humans are, we're selfish, we want to be it for ourselves. And you're always going to have the Yidden bringing a deeper element to Olam Hazeh, Basi Lagani. So it's always going to have this clash. The underlying factor is because they're uncomfortable. If they weren't uncomfortable, they would have been fine with all of those other elements. As they are, say that you have a lot of people dress funny. It's funny for you. Or, okay, it's like weird for you, but that doesn't go further. But why is he not jealous? Why is he not jealous all the time?
Isn't it just based off the fact that Esav saying to Yaakov?
Why?
Just the way they were Shemir, there could be a reason.
No, but there is a reason.
Go ahead. Esav saying to Yaakov.
So the Rebbe is taking from the Medrash here and sharing with us. What's the Medrash giving us a mashal for? Again, the biggest question of the Sikha is, why does the Medrash need to give a mashal for Haman and Ahasuerus? You have a win-win situation. Guy hates the Jews. Another guy is equally happy to get rid of the Jews. So they work together. It's a win-win situation. You don't need to give me a mashal to explain a win-win situation. You take your kids to the supermarket. You want them to behave. You give them a candy. You win. They win. We're good. Why do you need to give me a mashal? Because this is explaining a deeper understanding of what's pushing Haman, what's bothering Haman. He's got the hearts. So here's the final thing of what you can do about it. If you run away from the identity as we are, not only superficially, but more the theistic identity that we have of bringing this world to a better place, not only for us, but for the Ne'leach as well, that the entire world should represent a place of home. If we're moving away from that, then essentially we're avoiding the solution. The solution is that everybody gets it. It might be uncomfortable for them. So we have to make it more palatable for them. We have to make it more exciting for them. But the solution is that everybody gets on board to make this place a place for them. First of all. Second of all, and here's an interesting thing. In every generation, there was always an exception. There was always, even for the anti-Semites, there was always, oh, that Jew, you know how it works. What's the difference between a Jew and anti-Semite? The Jew, anti-Semite says, the Jews, such people, horrible people. But Yankel, you'll never find a better guy. Pasha than him. He's such a good guy. Ask a Jew, what does he think about the Jewish people? Jewish people, wonderful people. My people, you can't find better people in the world. But Shmerel, he's such a guy. If I see him, I'm going to throw him out of the ship. So every guy has an exception to rule. Jewish people are terrible people, but Yankel, he's wonderful. You have people in your life that you're connected to. By default, business, wherever you are, you're connected to them. They accept you. They trust you. How could you go about transforming their opinion of other Jews? So the understanding is as follows. You take what they know. They know that you're a good guy. They know you have qualities that are admirable. You're kind. You're sharing. You're responsible. You'll go out of your way. They know all of those things are good about you. What you have to do is explain to them the reason you have those qualities is because I'm a Jewish person. Why do I have these qualities? Because I was brought up in a Jewish home. I was given and taught those qualities by my parents throughout my childhood. That's why I have these qualities. You think I'm kind just because I'm a kind guy? No, it's because of my Jewish education. This is a very interesting recruiter that you could share. If you find the right pieces, you could share with people that you know, and it brings them to a much deeper understanding of who you are. And that also connects them to understanding that other Jewish people are on the same page. I'll tell you something that happened in Westall. I'm driving back. I was playing tennis with somebody. We got a ride there together, and I got a ride back with him. And it's a very geschmacka time because we're in the car together. Nobody else is, there's no call, no one's bothering us to talk. As he's driving up to my house, he tells me that you'll be proud of me. Why? Because just the other day I was driving on your block and I noticed a wallet had fallen on the floor next to one of the cars. So I picked up the wallet, I checked inside, I found the license, and it happened to be a guy who lived just on this corner, and I put it back in his mailbox. And then he tells me, and you know what? Because we had been talking about this course about antisemitism, he's like, you know what? Probably should have added a little note. A Jew turned your wallet. So he's thinking, you know, they hate Jews because they think Jews are greedy people. And here I am, I have an opportunity to educate them that Jews are not greedy people. But if he had just said a Jew returned your wallet, it could kind of come out the wrong way. So what could he have said? He could have said as follows. I was raised in a Jewish home. I was raised with values my parents taught me. As the Jewish community teaches all of its children to be kind, to be responsible, not to be greedy, to return something when it's lost. This is what our Torah says. He could have educated the guy, so the guy now knows every Jewish person lives with this value. This is not something it's not beyond what you could be doing. Huh? They would hate you. No, they love you. That's because we all have people that accept us, that like us. Hate the people that work with you and work from their excellence. And Satanists know that ultimately our place in this world is a place of bringing the world to a more pneumistic understanding and connection with Abishah. And the only way we'll ever get to solving and resolving the issue is by actually bringing everybody there. We should have us and we should have the beauty, see the beauty only from a place of